It was election day across 16 constituencies in 12 states on Saturday. Nigeria witnessed yet another round of legislative by-elections, and we saw the ruling APC capture, or rather winning 12 of the seats out of the 16 seats. Of course, his grip on Kano has been challenged, especially with the just concluded by-election. The PDP recorded victories in Ibadan, in Adamawa, NNPP won in Kano, APGA claimed Anambra. The African Democratic Congress, on the other side, a key opposition vehicle in recent coalitions, walked away with none. While the APC celebrated what it considered a show of strength, opposition parties say the polls were marred with violence, intimidation, and corruption in what appears a stinging rebuke of the process. By the way, these aren't just by-elections. They're a litmus test for the 2027 general election. And now there are urgent questions about credibility, fairness, and the real state of Nigeria's democracy. Let's begin the conversation tonight with Ken Asongwa of the Labour Party. Mr. Asongwa, thank you for joining us. You have described Saturday's elections as a mockery of democracy and a dress rehearsal for 2027. What specific incidents underpin your strong assertion? Mr. Kogwa is of the Labour Party. Alongside quite a number of opposition members of the opposition party have condemned the just concluded by-election. We've heard from the PDP, the ADC, and now the Labour Party. The criticism has been about the conduct of the INEC itself under Professor Yakubu. For instance, the Labour Party is saying that the commission failed even during an off-season election. And there are conversations as to what are the indices for this failure. What really is the opposition party considering as pass mark, for the umpire in this particular election? While the APC, for instance, boasts of capturing 12 of the 16 seats, its grip in Kano has been challenged, especially after the NNPP won decisively in Bagua Shanono, prompting APC to call for the Kano post cancellation amid allegations of violence and manipulation. We'll get back to the opposition and its position, but let's bring in Senator Ajibola Basiru, who's the National Secretary of the APC. Senator Basiru, thank you for joining us on the program again. The opposition has accused this election of being fraud by manipulation and intimidation. How do you respond to those claims?
I think first and foremost, the question is that which opposition is accusing INEC of manipulation? Is it opposition like NFPP that won one of the House of Assembly seats in Kano and then lost one to the APC? Or is it opposition APGA that won a senatorial election in Anambra and also won a House of Assembly? Or is it opposition that won a House of Rep seats in Ibadan North Federal Constituency? Or is it opposition that did not even have any structure that could win any election in anywhere out of the 12 states in Nigeria? The truth is that the election on Saturday was won based on the ability of the political party in their area to effectively mobilize for the purpose of winning an election. So in this regard, it has only been the pastime of some people to just raise red herring and make criticism about election whenever they lose that election. The truth that on Saturday was that in some of the constituency, the opposition, where they were strong, they won an election in Anambra South, for instance, and also the Anam Onitsha State House of Assembly, and one seat in the House of Rep out of the 5 in Ibadan. So what I'm saying essentially is that it's not just enough to come and make a general allegation. Of course, as APC, we publicly stated that we have issues with the election in the Sanono state constituency, and we came up with fact and figure. As we speak now, we're already preparing to challenge the outcome of that election in tribunal. But that's not to say that election was not conducted and that winners are not emerged. So if you have problem with the election that have been conducted, then the best way to go about it, rather than undermining democratic process, is to go and challenge the election before the election tribunal. But we thank Nigerian people for coming out to vote overwhelmingly in most of the constituency in favor of the APC, which we regard as a pass mark for the renewal of agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
I hear you, Senator. What they are saying actually is that these by-elections show that INEC under President Tinubu administration is even weaker than it was in 2023. And they have highlighted some of the reports like late arrival of materials in Oyo, disruptions in Kano. You just mentioned that your party is going to court. They've also talked about low voter turnout nationwide. Do you accept that APC's victory, as we speak, risk being seen less as a sign of popularity and more as a sign of institutional failure?
I think it's, from what I've said, yeah. You said they said late arrival of material in Ibadan North, and yet APC did not win in Ibadan North. So in what way has late arrival material helped APC to win or to lose an election? Then in Anambra South, senatorial district, the APC had 9,000 votes, even ahead of ADC and ahead of Labour Party. But then ABGA won that particular election. Then in Kano, for instance, we had issues with security and intimidation of voters, but yet the INEC went ahead and declared NNPP as winning that election. The truth is that you cannot blame INEC for what they call low voter turnout. The turnout is a function of mobilization by all political parties. A political party that does not even have agents in most of the polling units in the constituency where it's contesting is talking about low voter turnout. Do they have canvassers? Do they have mobilizers? The truth is that as APC, we mobilize and we campaign for that election. Within 72 hours of the election, myself and our national chairman, Professor Netawe, we were in Remo constituency to campaign. We were in Irua, in Edo Central to campaign. I personally was in Kano to support the campaign and mobilization effort of our party. Ask other political parties, what effort have they made to mobilize and galvanize voters to even come out and vote for them in the election? Not just coming out to come and just lampoon an institution that is improving gradually on electoral contest in Nigeria. As far as we are concerned, even in areas where we are not in government, like for instance in Adamawa, APC won. In Sanfara, we are in a comfortable lead, even though we are not the party in power in that regard. And of course, in Taraba State, we won the state assembly in that constituency. The truth is that the only political party that is working to win an election, mobilizing people at the grassroots, is the APC. That political party, they rather consider themselves as a political party on Twitter, on Instagram, without any connection with the real people that will come out and vote in an election.
Absolutely. The bottom line also is the fact that the opposition seem to have a different narrative or a different story to tell. Let's say in Kano, for instance, where the NNPP already controls the governorship and the assembly. You mentioned that your party is going to court to challenge the result of the Bagua-Shanono election. But what is this actually saying about the APC control in the north, particularly in Kano, that has perhaps the largest voting bloc? They say that your influence there is shrinking. How do you respond to that?
I think in Kano, we had two state assembly elections, Bakwe and Shanono. We won one and we are contesting one. So how was that, diminished the popularity of the APC, whereas even the state government is being controlled by the NNPP, and yet APC was able to win one out of the two elections conducted on the same day in that place. And talking about the north, Adamawa is a state in the north. APC won in the north, even though we are not in charge of the state government. APC won also in Niger State. We won all the 3 constituencies in Kaduna State. We also won in Taraba State, where we are not even the state in government. So in this election, the bulk of the election by election occur in the north, and APC won virtually the seat on offer in the north, except one state assembly. We won in Jigawa, a federal constituency. We won in Niger State Assembly. We won in all the 3 seats on offer in Kaduna State. The truth is that beyond making unguided statements and beyond making unwarranted criticism, the party that is strong in the north today from the last election conducted on Saturday is the APC.
But you have to easy, Senator Basiru, because this is just a by-election, and when you consider the percentage of the election that I held relative to the grand election that will matter in 2027, I'm sure that you probably will review that statement again. But security agencies,
the truth is that you can use even about the microcosm to judge macrocosm. If on Saturday, 16th of August, we conducted election in the north, and the only seats that any opposition can win is a state assembly seat in the entire northern Nigeria, and you are not seeing that as a positive precursor of the strength of the APC in 2027 election. I don't know what parameter you want to use to judge in that.
Take Kano, for instance, that you're talking about. Kano, NNPP has the governor in Kano. He has the majority in the State House of Assembly. You only contested 2 seats and you won 1. So you can, I mean...
And they won 50%. If you are a student as a student...
But they still hold majority both within the executive and the legislative. Let's take a short break. Senator Basiru.
They cannot have 100% in the election.
Let us take a short break and then we'll be back to discuss more about this. Stay with us, everyone. Senator Ajibola Basiru is the National Secretary of the All Progressives Congress. Thank you for staying the course on the program. Interesting way you are looking at your victory in Kano, but we're going to get back to that. Security agencies reportedly arrested some thugs in Kano, and there were also accounts of voters fleeing polling units. Given your party's position as the ruling party, what responsibility do you take for ensuring elections are peaceful? And I'm wondering how you respond to critics who say APC benefits most from the climate of intimidation.
How can we benefit? We are the one that made allegation that the state governments in Kano use the atmosphere of the conduct of campaign to bring in bandits for Banigwari and some other constituencies to be able to seek to intimidate voters in Shanono. If you are popular talks, you don't need to create an atmosphere of violence in an electoral contest. So it also speaks to the fact that some of the states and the government seek to use their dominance of state apparatus to seek to intimidate voters and seek to harass voters with a view to intimidating them. But it also speaks to the fact that the federal government was able to come in and made several arrests, even during the conduct of the election. And as that can be seen, there are evidence of this people brought to seek to intimidate and harass voters on the part of people who are not even controlling federal might. So if anybody is making any allegation, it will mean that the federal government is not using its advantage in terms of controlling security apparatus to intimidate and harass people. Is even people in the subnational they are seeking to do that, which we condemn, and we believe those arrested will be made to face the wrath of the law.
We're hearing from you, so we also need to hear from the other side to know precisely who harassed who and what exactly happened in Kano. But your party has gotten 12 out of 16 seats now. I think APGA got 2 and PDP and NNPP had 1 each. But what do you make of this battle of narratives? On one hand, APC is celebrating, Mr. President is happy, you think it's consolidating on the popularity of your party. But on the other hand, you hear what the opposition is saying. What does this make of the health of our electoral system? Senator Basiru, can you still hear me? Senator Basiru, I want to be sure you can still hear me.
Always in the history, I can hear you. You are saying what makes out of what opposition is saying about the election, about how democracy is developing in Nigeria. I think that's what you said. And I'm saying that it has always been the pastime of people who lose election to seek to castigate institution of democracy. But the election tribunal is there for anybody who believes the process has been changed. And I've told you that our party is already considering challenging the only assembly election won by NPP in Kano. And that is part of democratic process. But for people who did not mobilize, who did not canvass, who did not even have agents at relevant polling units to be talking about election not being conducted in line with the law, speaks of hypocrisy of this individual, and also speak of the fact that they are not ready to mobilize genuine voters in Nigeria to contest the democratic space. Where you are welcome to contest democratic space, NPP did though in a very unusual manner in Kano, and of course you also see what happened in Anambra South election, whereby even the deputy governor of Abga had to go to polling units where he had no business being, and he was challenged by our governorship candidate that he has no right to move around to places where he did not have. So when APC have been shown to play in accordance with the law, but you see even the so-called opposition that have been the one to make allegations are the one that are evidence against them to show that they are not the one playing according to democratic tenet. We want to urge the opposition. The democratic space is large. Play according to the rules, mobilize, and then let the electorate decide who they want to vote and where the pendulum of democratic aspiration to swing.
A presidential aide, a member of your party, recently taunted the opposition coalition with a social media post asking, how is the market now? I don't know if you have seen it. Some consider it a clear dig at Atiku, Obi, and El Rufai. What do you make of what critics call, they say that this tone of triumphalism risk deepening distrust in governance? What's your perspective on the rhetoric being deployed?
I think, you see, I'm a football fan. If, for instance, my team, Arsenal, should win, I'll be very happy. And of course, I'll call out supporters of Chelsea and Liverpool. The same thing in democratic contest. If, as a political party, you have done election and you have won, and you're asking your opponents, I know there's a platform that I belong to, different elements, both from ruling party and opposition. We call it National Frontier. There's one of our people there is Mercy. It's always against the APC. Of course, somebody called out and said, what happened to ADC on Saturday? And he said, ADC is bringing their result from their pocket. So what I'm saying in essence is that there's nothing wrong with anybody who has labored to work for victory, to safeguard the victory. So if you believe that you have lost the election, and then that will rob the victor from celebrating the election as stretching democracy, I don't think there's anything bad about that.
Well, there's the expectation of being magnanimous in victory, though. But this
magnanimous does not mean you do not celebrate your victory.
It's all right. It also depends on how you choose to celebrate it. I mean, calling out your opponent and saying, how is market? Well, I like the way you see it, but some other people see it a completely different way.
They will say the market is fine. That's how Hausa will say. They say Bakomi.
These by-elections, Senator, are being seen as test runs. And I know that APC has won 12/16, but it's important that we also pay attention to the process and the systems. What do you think that Nigerians should infer, about electoral preparedness heading into 2027?
You see, as APC, we continue to engage the electorate, we continue to mobilize, and we continue to let the Nigerian people see the connection between the renewal agenda and development of our country. And the parameters and the indices is showing that Nigeria economy has become stable and that we are on the right course in being able to ensure that we have massive infrastructure development. We address the need of our people in the area of education, in the area of health, and giving hope to the teeming youth in terms of gainful employment that can only come from a stable economic and developed economy. So we continue to engage, mobilize, and canvass ideas. You can see even last week, the presidential economic communication team were in Ebonyi to engage with the stakeholder in the southeast. We have a structure to continue to mobilize and galvanize the Nigerian people to support the renewal agenda of President Bola Tinubu. The opposition also have the opportunity. Unfortunately, they only use the opportunity to make false statements. And Kabra said, tell no lie, claim no easy victory. The truth is that the renewal agenda is resonating with the Nigerian people, and we are seeing it in the victory of the APC in the electoral contest. So we are optimistic that in the oncoming election in Ekiti and Osun and the general election in 2027, the ruling party, the APC, will engage with the mass of the Nigerian people, and that will also catalyze in victory for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the 2027 general election.
It matters also how much confidence Nigerians have in what INEC has to offer, especially in the light of the issues that have been raised by opposition. They are now talking about our democratic progress under the Tinubu administration. What are the loopholes that you think INEC need to fix before the forthcoming election?
I think first and foremost, INEC must be credited for doing its job in the off-cycle election. At the same time, there is always room for improvement in terms of early logistic development and ensuring that our collation are seamlessly done using the facility of the beavers, being able to allow results to be sent in advance to collation center. And of course, our security agencies also need to work more to ensure security both before, during, and after the election. There's always room for improvement. But for people to just sit down because they have lost election in several constituencies and seek to undermine democratic process and advancement would not augur well for strengthening institutions of democracy in Nigeria.
Mr. Bashir, we have to go now, but you mentioned all the forthcoming elections. You skipped Anambra. Have you given up on Anambra? Because we saw Governor Soludo visit President Tinubu again.
We are not definitely giving up on Anambra. In the coming week, we are going to launch a high-caliber national campaign council, and we are going to contest democratic space against ABGA in that election.
We'll see how that goes. Senator Ajibola Bashir is National Secretary of the APC. Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you for having me too.
That's our show today, everyone. Thank you for being a part of it. Remember that you can watch it again at midnight and 6 a.m. tomorrow. I am Nifemi Oguntoye.